In this webinar, Kanetix Ltd. will share its learnings from the successful implementation of end-to-end tracking and deploying machine learning, significantly impacting the bottom line. Throughout the webinar, you're welcome to ask questions and make comments on the comment section in the control panel. It's my pleasure now to welcome Andrew Lowe, President and CEO of Kanetix Ltd., who will introduce his colleagues and lead the discussion. Andrew?
Thank you, Patrick. Really appreciate Insurance Canada working with us to put on this live video stream live here at the Kanetix studios. And it's great that we have more than 65 people joining this webinar live with us right now. And so this is again a new format around the webinar. We're doing it live stream so you can see all of us on video. And these videos are going to be made available on both the Insurance Canada site as well as the Kanetix Ltd. Site and my personal blog at andrewlowe.ca. So as Patrick introduced, I'm the President and CEO of Kanetix Ltd. You can reach me on our Twitter account and by email, but please feel free to email me if you want a copy of the slides we're about to present. So it has a little bit more detail than the videos, and so please email me. Happy to provide that. And so I'm going to start off by introducing our experts that we have here today. So on my immediate left, I have Marike Host. She's a FinTech account manager, account executive at Google. She's a digital marketer at Google, and she has worked with many small, medium-sized businesses, large customers at Google. In her current role as an account executive, she partners with some of the largest online advertisers in Canada to improve their business and marketing results. She's all about that return on marketing investments. Marike previously worked as a communications manager at ITAC. So I'm sure many of, especially if you're in IT, know that organization, the Technology Association of Canada. She earned a master's degree in communications management and a master's degree in languages. So hopefully she'll speak to us in Belgium or German today, right? That would be fun. And then on my far left is Lainey. She's our head and vice president of marketing. She's been leading all the marketing initiatives and all the innovation when it comes to digital marketing here at Kanetix since 2011. And we've made leaps and strides, and it's because it's through her innovative thinking and through her leadership. She has 15 years of marketing experience, and it's all in financial services and insurance industry. She spent a lot of time in London, England with Barclays Bank, developing digital marketing programs for them. And before that, she worked at Euromonitor, which is a research firm out of the UK, and she launched their first digital marketing campaign and their website. She holds a Bachelor of Business Administration at School of Business and a diploma in digital marketing at the Digital Marketing Institute in the UK. So welcome, thank you for joining. I do have some opening comments before we get into the details. First of all, at Kanetix, we really care about that customer experience, and we care about how we help the insurance industry get more customers online, and then turn those customers, engage them, build trust, and convert those customers into policyholders in the insurance industry. So this is why we're talking about machine learning and digital marketing today. Before I jump into that, I wanted to talk about what we mean by AI and machine learning, etc. Well, over the past, especially the last 2 years, we've seen a humongous growth in the amount of data that we're able to collect. Without that data, AI is not possible. That data actually fuels AI. And as more data comes in, artificial intelligence is able to take that data and continuously learn to produce these business results. So you will see going forward, especially this year when we talk about AI and machine learning, it is going to be the foundation of all innovation. And you're not going to find a new thing that's happening that's super innovative or disruptive in the technology landscape that doesn't involve using a lot of data to drive insights and decisions to be the root core of any technological product that's being built, and then leveraging AI and machine learning to create better customer experience and better value for businesses and for customers. So what do we mean by AI? So a lot of people ask me, well, are you really AI or are you just really predictive analytics? Like, what is it? Well, predictive analytics is not really AI, Andrew. Well, no, we are really talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning here. And when we talk about those types of systems, it's about systems that can learn to do things that we can't program them to do. So we can assign a developer to write the software that an AI can do, right? The AI is going to take the data, it learns from it, and reconfigures itself to continually provide the right outputs to produce the business results. In fact, most of the AI and machine learning systems we talk about today is about software, right? And in 2018 and beyond, you're going to find that most of the technology makers, the engineers at Intel, et cetera, are making AI on a chip, right? And so this is a picture of Brian Krzanich, CEO of Intel, showing a chip that supports the consumption of mass amounts of data, and it can even reconfigure itself on chip in order to build that artificial intelligence around the data. Same with Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, started his company as a video game chip manufacturing, but it turns out graphic processing units are really important to the evolution of AI. They have the processing power in order to take the mass amounts of data and implement the machine learning. And just 2 days ago at Google I/O, Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, announced TPU 2.0 and 3.0, and this is the tensor processing unit that Google has in their cloud to make all of their AI and machine learning work. And in fact, these machines run so hot, they have to be cooled by liquid now in their data center. So you're going to see AI moving from software into a hardware in order to improve speed and reliability, etc. So before I move on, I want to show you one video that's actually went fairly viral. 2 days ago, Google announced that they're working on a product called Duplex. And Duplex is actually the latest version that's being tested of the Google Assistant. And actually, you're going to see in this demo here, this video I'm going to roll, is the Google Assistant actually having a real conversation with a restaurant owner trying to make a reservation. And you can see how adaptive that the conversation can become using artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I want you to have a look at this. And if you thought you saw this video on Facebook or LinkedIn because someone posted it, this is the one that has gone less viral than the conversation with the hair salon. So have a look.
It turns out a big part of getting things done is making a phone call. You may want to get an oil change schedule, maybe call a plumber in the middle of the week, or even schedule a haircut appointment. We are working hard to help users through those moments. We want to connect users to businesses in a good way. Let's say you want to call a restaurant, but maybe it's a small restaurant which is not easily available to book online. The call actually goes a bit differently than expected. So take a listen.
See, how may I help you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
4 people? When? Today?
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually we reserve for after 5 people. For 4 people you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
For when, tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday, the 7th.
Oh no, it's not too busy. You can come for 4 people, okay?
Oh, I gotcha. Thanks.
Bye bye.
As you can see here, the colored circles represents the Google robot having a conversation with a real restaurant owner taking reservation. And as you can see how it has reacted based on the unexpected reactions from the person, misinterpreting the date versus May 7th versus having 7 people, et cetera. It was able to react. So back to more serious stuff. So again, this is the future of AI, and it's being developed and it's being tested and things are working. But here's something that is really working today, where we've applied the fundamentals of AI and machine learning in addition and applying it to search engine marketing scenarios in order to produce a superior customer experience. And this is what Lainey and Enrique are here to talk about, how they have got this to work to improve the customer experience. And we know it improves the customer experience because it actually has increased the ROI on the marketing spend. So let me hand it over first to Enrique for her presentation. She's going to talk about Google and how they're thinking about machine learning, et cetera. So please take it away.
Thank you, Andrew. So for the next couple of 10 minutes, I'll be talking to you about some more of the basic concepts that Andrew already introduced. I'll be giving you some examples of what exactly it can do and how you can start using it. So some definitions. We've all heard about artificial intelligence, machine learning, whether it's on the news or maybe at some cocktail party. So these are terms that we've all heard, but what exactly do they mean? Artificial intelligence has been around for decades. It's nothing new, really. A good example is a calculator. So what do we call artificial intelligence? It leverages machines to perform tasks that are characteristic to human intelligence. So we basically use machines to do something that we thought that only a human brain could do. A good example is a calculator. We don't think of a calculator as a machine that uses artificial intelligence, but it is actually a good example. About 150 years ago, we only had our human brain to do calculations, whereas now you can use calculators, a machine, to do that human-like task. So that's kind of like the broadest term. Then when we think of machine learning is a subset of AI. And those are actually programs that will learn and improve on their own. So you give them large sets of data, and based on those large sets of data, they'll be able to find patterns and they'll be able to learn on their own. So instead of having someone coding, it actually learns on their own based on huge sets of data that are way better, frankly, than any human brain could possibly think of. A good example here is Spotify. When you sign up for Spotify in the beginning, you'll just, you'll look for songs, you'll look for artists, but after a while, you'll notice that Spotify starts to give you recommendations. And that's basically because it uses all of the data that it has, so all the data of other Spotify users, and it'll be able to recommend you songs that it thinks that you will like. So for example, if you like Pink, it'll notice that based off of their user base, they notice that people who like Pink oftentimes also like Miley Cyrus. So in that sense, it's basically able to make those recommendations because it has looked at the data that it has. Now, when we take it one step further, and this, honestly, this slide has traditional models, random forests, k-means. I'm not going to get into all of those. The one that I really want to focus on here is deep learning. Deep learning is an approach to machine learning, and that's really what's been able to revolutionize the area of machine learning. Deep learning has been modeled on the human brain, so well, I shouldn't say we, this is publicly available, but the researchers who've been working on this, what they use is they use the structure and the function of the human brain. So they modeled it after a human brain. Think of the, how the neurons are interconnected, and they've used that same principle to process data. So just taking a step back, artificial intelligence is really the umbrella. Then within artificial intelligence, you have machine learning as a subset of AI. And when I say machine learning, oftentimes you've also heard the word or the abbreviation ML. And then within that, within machine learning, you have different approaches. And the one that currently is the most popular, the most powerful, is really deep learning. So now let's look at some fun examples. What can machine learning do for you? A lot of people seem to think that machine learning is something that's going to happen in the future, but it's not. It's something that is already embedded in a lot of apps and websites that you're currently using. But here's an example, Google Translate. I'm sure that 5 years ago when you were going to Google Translate, it was to have some good fun because the translations weren't frankly that great. It was helpful to understand what a text was about, but it wasn't as accurate. Now, fast forward to 2018, we've been able to make huge progress, and that's really because of the progress that we've seen with deep learning. The slide that you see here, it shows an image of someone who is pointing the Google Translate app at a sign. And this is really machine learning in action. What it does is it reads the text, it will translate the text, it will then wipe out the original text, and in the original font, it will then project the translated text. If you would have asked a scientist 10 years ago and you would have shown them mock-ups of this application, they would have said, there's no way this is going to be done in the next 10 years from now. But because of the breakthrough of deep learning, we've been able to make huge progress on this. And obviously, if you haven't tested it out, this is a great app. I'm sure all of you are starting to think of your vacations this summer. So, if you're going to Italy, this might be a useful app because you can just download it to your phone. You don't need any roaming. It all happens on your phone. and it's going to help you translate the menu. So you can actually look smart to your family. So I definitely recommend you download that one. So that's just one example of machine learning. Another example from a completely different area, this example comes from the health industry. So what we did is we worked with the Department of Ophthalmologists, and they provided us with 12,000 images of people who suffer from diabetic retinopathy. That's a disease that a lot of people with diabetes suffer from, and if it's not detected in time, it can cause blindness. So what we did was we fed those 12,000 images to the system, and the system was able to analyze the different symptoms, the different images, because earlier I said the system uses data. Data is not just text. Data can be sound, it can be images. So in this case, it analyzed 12,000 images to find out what the symptoms were of diabetic retinopathy. Right now, where we're at is we're at the same accuracy levels as the Harvard ophthalmologists. So this is a good example of how machine learning is transforming yet another industry, in this case, the health industry. And I'm sure that you've all tried to make an appointment with an ophthalmologist, and it can be challenging to actually get an appointment. So hopefully in the future, those doctors will be able to save some time by using these kind of applications or automations. So now how can you use it? If you're using any of the Google products, whether it's Google Maps, Google Translate, YouTube, all of those products are currently powered by machine learning. So even though you might not realize, you're already using it. For the rest of the webinar, we're actually going to focus on marketing. So what I want to spend my last 2 minutes on is really how machine learning is impacting marketing. So here what we see is there's different aspects to marketing. Targeting, bidding, creative, attribution. And I've been with Google for the past 7 years, and it's really in the last 2 years that I've seen that more and more of these aspects of marketing are being more and more automated. So I'll give you one specific example. If you've ever done any app download campaigns, we have now something that's called the universal app campaigns. Those are highly automated campaigns. Back in the days, you had to put in what kind of targeting did you want to target women 25 to 44 who are interested in shopping. How much do you want to bid for those people? You had to ask your creative team for creative assets. So it was a fairly manual process. Right now, when you want to do an app download campaign, all you need to do is determine 3 factors. You need to tell the system how much budget you have, how much you're willing to spend for an install, and you need to give obviously the link to your app. But it's highly automated versus, recently, like a year and a half ago, you had to do targeting manually, bidding manually, you had to upload your creative. Now the system can automate all of that for you because it's using data and it's analyzing, it's finding those patterns, and it will help you find the best performing ad at the right place at the right time. Now, before I hand it over to Lenny, let's talk for 1 minute about smart bidding. So smart bidding is, again, it's all about automation that we see in the marketing space. And smart bidding is something that we've tested with a lot of clients. So what is smart bidding? So when you go to Google and you type compare car insurance quotes, you'll see at the top, you'll see a couple of ads. So what's happening in the back end there is that you have several advertisers who are bidding to have their ad appear at the top. All of those advertisers, they have different bids. And there's different factors that go into this, but the bid is really important. So until fairly recently, marketing teams, they used to spend hours on setting those bids. Right now, because of smart bidding, or also called automated bidding, this is something that the system can do for you. So what happens is that it creates a deep neural net, and that goes back to deep learning. I said before, deep learning, it's modeled on the human brain, so it creates those neural networks. So the system will take all that data, and in this case, it's over 70 billion, and this is not a spelling mistake, over 70 billion ad options, and it will analyze that data to find patterns. And at the same time, when somebody types, it will use all of these live signals, and in combination with the patterns that it's been able to detect, it will determine the best bid. It will only go after those customers that the system thinks are likely to convert. And all of that happens in under 400 milliseconds. So that's kind of the theory of smart bidding. But the great thing is that today I'm here with Lenny, and Lenny will actually talk through the practice of it and how how it's been able to change their business results. So I'll hand it back to
just to see if there's any questions from the audience before we move on. This automated smart bidding is incredible because for auto insurance alone, to manage those campaigns, there's thousands of keywords that you have to do, and this makes it highly optimized and much easier to manage. In addition, when this works with conversion, Lainey's going to show you, it's going to only go after customers that we know are a good match when it comes to the purchase of insurance. And this is going to be an important point for insurance companies because when you use the data that have policies that are sold, which means that you found a good match between the consumer and the insurer, and we'll use that data and its behavior in order to bring more of those types of people in. So Lainey's going to show more of that. But just winding back to with some of your examples are really amazing. I've talked to a number of startups that using the image recognition system on Google to recognize the nature of auto claims and how much it costs so that a simple picture can be analyzed by a machine and estimate the parts that need to be replaced in addition to estimating the approximate amount of damage. A lot of people are doing that using the Google's platform to recognize these images. And then I've got a friend who's doing a fun thing with this, right? So instead of recognizing eyeballs, they use it to recognize bat sounds because there were bats in the house, and so they took a phone and measured the sound a bat would make, and then other sounds that were not bats. And so now when they walk in the room, they'll no bat on his phone, right? So they know there's bats, right? So this is that's a really useful application. Well, but that's how powerful it is. So I'm going to hand the remote over to. There's no questions so far, right? I hand it over to. Welcome to our large production team here at the Kanetix studio. There's a cast of several people getting these camera and the footage together and the sound and everything. So thank you all. Lainey?
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you from Marika to introducing us to the topic. I'm really excited to share with you our machine learning for digital marketing success case study. Now, this case study is specific to our Kanetix.ca website. So here we're talking about when we acquire auto insurance customers through our website. So just to make sure that everyone is following along and it's on the same page. So first I want to frame the business challenge for you. And this is the challenge that we've had. So we were very early on in the digital marketing and specifically the search marketing space. But over the years, as more and more advertisers in the insurance space have gotten online, we've seen the cost of bidding on keywords in Google go up. So over the years, we've started to see our margins being squeezed. And this impacts us because search marketing is one of the largest areas of marketing spend in our business. So really where we wanted to be was this. We wanted to expand our margins and we wanted to figure out a solution to help us get here. So going back to what Marika explained to make sure that everyone is on the same page here, we're talking about search in Google and the cost that advertisers pay to appear in these top spots. So in this example, someone typed in compare car insurance quotes and Kanetix here is in the top spot. There is an auction that goes into this in order to appear in these spots along with other factors, but here we're talking about the bidding. So back a couple of years ago, we were doing very manual bids to appear here. It was a lot of management, but now we're talking about transitioning this using the machine learning capabilities that Google has to smart bidding and automated bidding. So we got together with our Google team and we came up with a winning formula. Now, this is the formula that helped us triple our margins at Kanetix.ca. So this is, if there's one thing you take away from this webinar, this is it. So let me go through the formula and I'll go back to it throughout the presentation and walk you through the steps that we took. So first, the key here is to track and measure everything. And to track and measure everything as far down your business funnel as you possibly can. So in our case, when customers are coming into our Kanetix.ca website searching for auto insurance, they're transacting online. And as a digital company, that's absolutely no problem for us. We capture all that data, we have no issue tracking and measuring the success of that campaign. However, where it starts to get a bit more challenging is when that customer likes a rate that they see for their auto insurance quote, and they actually then need to phone us up, and the agent at Kanetix, the call center agent, needs to transfer them over to the insurance company that they want to speak with. So this is where the transaction goes offline and where the tracking starts to get more complicated. So the key for us was to measure end-to-end, all the way from the keyword search right down to that offline transaction and tie that data back into our AdWords platform. Okay, so I'm going to go over this in more detail. But if you track and measure everything that you possibly can and combine that with the power of Google's machine learning capabilities, or smart bidding in this case, you get this granular data, these offline conversions feeding back into your machine learning, which helps optimize the performance and the success of your campaigns. And it not only gains efficiencies in the campaign, but gains efficiencies in terms of resourcing as well. So I will talk about this a bit more as well. But all this is what led us to significantly improve our business results, in fact, tripling our margins, and really showing that marketing had a direct impact on the bottom line. So I'm going to first talk about leveraging machine learning and what this means and how any advertiser, provided they have enough conversion data. So the rule of thumb, I think, Marika, is 30 conversions in 30 days to make sure that you have enough data to feed the machine and actually be able to optimize your account. So we're next going to go on to how machine learning improves your resource efficiency. So I have a team of 3 search marketers, and in a couple of years back, they were busy optimizing these keyword bids for nearly 40,000 keywords daily. This took an incredible amount of time and energy. However, as we move our account over to smart bidding, the team can now focus on more strategic activities by improving the overall performance of the account, rather than spending all this time doing these tiny bids for this massive set of keywords. So you're really going to see, if you take this back to your team, much more improvements in terms of resource efficiency. But the most important thing is the performance results that you might be able to achieve by leveraging machine learning to manage bids in an automated way. So in this slide, you'll see all the signals, or some of the signals rather, that are going in to optimize the bids. And I'm going to focus on just a few of them. So one such signal is device. So at Kanetix.ca, we track and measure our business funnel, and we understand that customers coming to us and searching for us on their mobile device don't necessarily convert as readily as they do on desktop. So the conversion rate is lower. So from our search team, we said, well, we don't want to pay as much for that customer, so we actually modify our bid down on mobile, and we did do this in the past. However, when we transitioned our account to be controlled by smart bidding, it actually takes that away, and the machine optimizes towards device to a very particular search term. So it's not, so if you can imagine someone searching maybe something like, Kanetix car insurance buy now, well, that customer could be a really, really good customer, could convert really well for us, but the machine starts to recognize these patterns and optimize it. So we ended up to seeing far more better results through mobile than we ever had before, which was really interesting. The other factor that I want to highlight here is demographics. So in insurance, there are customer profiles that certain insurers will want. So we want to focus on attracting the right customers for our partners. So we will see, understand the demographic pool that we want, and we'll want to bid more for that customer. But we can only do that in a very rule-based way when we're just manually setting this and manually managing the account. So turning this over to machine learning, feeding those demographic conversions back, we actually are able to improve our results much better than we would if we were doing this ourselves. So I believe there are over 200 signals in Google Smart Bidding, is that correct?
Yeah, so there's over 200 signals, which means that there's over millions of permutations. So there's a lot of data that the system takes into account. So as you can imagine, that's where Lenny was mentioning, earlier on, people were trying to do all these things manually, but now because of machine learning being so powerful, it's great that it can take all those signals into account, and at the same time, because of that automation, you have efficiencies that you're seeing in your marketing team.
So imagine this, actually go back one slide. I want to make this one point that's incredibly interesting. So for those who are in the insurance industries out there, right, that conversion, what you can set that conversion to be like an insurance quote. It could be a call. It could be an actual sale, right? So if you wanted to put that data in there. And what happens with this bid management is that you know that when a conversion happened and you made a sale and you made revenue, it means you found a great customer for your product, right? And so now you're going to train a machine to go out on the internet through search engine to find more of those types of customers to bring them in. And that's the key part of bringing in the increased margin while not spending like exponentially more on blanketing AdWords, so like you have ads everywhere, but it doesn't actually mean those are the right customers for your product.
Yeah, and I think that for me, that's definitely, having worked with different clients on this product, the key is really the quality of your data. So if you're able to feed high quality data with high quality conversions, or your best users, or if the quality of your list of the data that you feed, that will eventually determine how successful you are. So it's really important to choose what data you're going to feed to the system, and whether it's a quote or whether it's a different kind of conversion. So that's really something that's very important when you're.
And I think we experimented with that, right? Like, what is the right conversion to bring what's the right conversion metric? So I want to ask too, like, you're saying the standard lane was 30 conversions in 30 days was enough to train the machine, and all AI needs to be trained, right? They're just they have no intelligence unless you train it with data. What is the learning period? How long will this 30 conversions times 30 doesn't seem to be a lot. Like even small insurance providers, is that really realistic? That the learning period is only 30 days?
That's the absolute minimum to use smart bidding. I would say the more data you have, the faster the learning period. When clients start testing this, we always tell them to at least wait for 2 weeks. If you have a lot of data, then obviously this can be as fast as a week or even a couple of days. So it all goes back to the amount of data that you feed and the quality of the data that you feed. So it's the absolute minimum. If as a company you don't have 30 conversions in 30 days, you could think of maybe you don't have 30 quotes, but maybe you have 100 people who do a different kind of conversion, whether it's a call or signing up for a newsletter. So I would say, think of different kinds of conversions that you could feed to the system.
Great, thanks.
So moving on, when we first approached smart bidding, now this was a couple of years back, we took a very test and learn approach, because the interesting thing is when you start applying machine learning to your campaigns, you don't know what you're going to get. So it's best to test it out and see. So I'm going to share with you a couple of examples of different campaigns and our initial results and the differences that we saw. So first we took an auto insurance campaign, and the numbers here show that we got slightly less conversions or quotes in this case than we would have with our manual bidding process. So it decreased by 1.45%, not a big deal. But we spent 11% less, and our cost for acquiring each of those customers dropped by 9%. So already, with literally the flip of a button, we're seeing these efficiencies in our account, which was really, really exciting for us. The other interesting thing was that once we turned over to smart bidding, we saw 65% more of our spend being funneled through mobile. This is a growing area in search. People are searching now on their mobiles, and when we turned it over to the machine to automate for this bidding, we saw far greater success through mobile. So overall, in this example, we got savings for roughly the same number of conversions. Fantastic. Now, a travel insurance campaign that we tried had very different results, so performed very differently, which is why it's really important to test and gauge what kind of results you're going to see. So this campaign suddenly saw a spike in traffic, a spike in quotes of 76%. Our spend went up by 86%, and our average cost to acquire each of these customers went up by over 5%. Now, we didn't want our cost to acquire these customers to increase by 5%, but it was a really interesting learning, because it told us that if we were to tell the system to adjust our bids down, our target cost per acquisition down, we would still likely see much more increase in volume for the same cost, which could be, again, more efficiencies. In the travel example, we saw far more of the spend funneling through mobile, which you can kind of imagine, because if you're buying travel insurance, it's something you might buy, as an afterthought on your way to the airport, something that you need to buy, quickly on your mobile device. So it worked far better through mobile. So overall, in this case, we saw a small cost per acquisition increase for far greater increase in volume, which gave us an opportunity to test.
I think this is a good example because it shows you two different campaigns with two different outcomes. And you'd think, oh, maybe, you guys at Google, you would be able to tell us what would happen. Honestly, it's all about the test and learn. You identify a campaign with a lot of volume, a lot of data, and you just test it out. Even for us at Google, it's impossible to say, oh, based on what I see here in the campaign, so-and-so will happen. There's nothing that we can say that we can actually use to predict what exactly would happen. It's just that in general, what we see is that clients have really good results with testing smart bidding. So it's just a matter of trying it out and seeing what the results are for you. And I love this example because both are positive outcomes. They're just very different outcomes. So as a company, whenever people say like, oh, we would want to test it out, what do you think is going to happen? Honestly, we don't know. It's just about trying it out and seeing if it works for you and what the outcome is going to be.
So going back to our winning formula, I'm going to turn our attention now to the track and measure everything piece. Now this is really tracking and measuring as far down as in your funnel as you can. So if you can measure an online transaction, well that's great, but it's even more powerful if you can convert or if you can measure those customers further to the point at which they actually monetize for you. So as Andrew was talking about before, if someone's giving your business a call, or even better, if they're actually a sold client, tracking that data and feeding it back to the machine and tracking that at a very granular keyword level to fully understand how that customer is coming to you in the first place is really powerful. So let's go into this example a bit and how we approached it at Kanetix. So when we got together with our Google team to approach this problem, what we did is we got a bunch of different people with different skill sets in a room, and we did a whiteboard session. So we had our Google team who know our account really, really well. We had an analytical lead over at Google, and we had some members of Kanetix, so our digital team. We had someone in the developer. We had analytics and product people. So we really wanted to understand and map our customer journey. What we sought to do was identify any measurement leaks, and specifically in our offline transactions where we were unable to measure the conversion. And then we wanted to figure out in this room a technical solution to actually address this gap and close the gap. And ultimately to pull this data back into our account and into our campaigns to optimize the performance. So first, mapping the customer journey. Now here's an example of a very simple linear customer journey through Kanetix.ca from Google. Now, this is kind of how we hope and wish that all customers would convert, because it's super simple and really easy for us to track and understand, but they don't really work like that. So in this example, someone searches in Google, they search for car insurance quotes, they click on the Kanetix.ca ad in Google, they come to our landing page, they go down at the bottom row there, they go and they complete their quote online, they like their rate, and they give us a call. And the call center agent ends up transferring them to the company that they wish to speak to. And that's where we measure our offline transaction, okay? But we know that customers really just don't behave all the time in this linear fashion. If you think about the way that you shop for things online, I mean, imagine you're shopping for a pair of sunglasses and you're typing in a few different brands you like, you're going to a few different websites, and then, you're not sure about it, and you maybe, a couple days later do a few more searches, and maybe you bail on your shopping cart because you think, I just want to go in the store and try that on. So it's more complicated. So this is what we tried to do. We tried to measure a more complex map of what the real customer journey looked like. So this is just one example on this slide, but there were over 20 combinations that we came up with, and there's likely more, but we wanted to identify and find the commonalities and the gaps in our journey. So in this one, someone is searching on Google, and they come to Kanetix, they do a quote, and then they bail. They're not sure about it. Maybe they want to consult with their partner. Maybe they want to look around a bit more. And then they come back and they do another keyword search. Perhaps they search for Kanetix auto insurance because they remember they came to Kanetix before. They click on the ad, and then they come back to our landing page, and they see a phone number there, and they think, I'm just going to call them up because I did that quote a couple days ago. And they call us, and they transact. Well, in this case, we want to make sure we're able to track that that phone call from the landing page came from that original search. So it's very complex, and we wanted to figure out technical solutions to pull all this data together. So going back to our simple, more linear example, it's these offline transactions, the phone calls and the offline transactions, which we wanted to figure out a solution for and bring back into our machine learning capabilities. So here's the technical solution. So essentially what we did was create an ID when someone came to the Kanetix site. We linked that with an analytics ID in Google Analytics, which is the platform that we use to measure our traffic. And we linked those two. And when the customer ended up converting in our call center, we actually pushed an event back into Google Analytics. And that event was then pushed into our Google AdWords tool to create a conversion goal. Now, the thing is, this is a very complex technical solution, and you need to get the right people around the table to figure this out because it's going to be different for every business. This is a challenge for many industries, not just insurance. But the key is to kind of figure out this way to link your offline and online data and feed it back into your marketing.
And I can actually add here that, you know, I work with a lot of large advertisers in Canada, and this is something that even for large advertisers in Canada is still very difficult to do. So I've been calling this the holy grail. Everybody wants to obviously track everything and include offline transactions or offline conversions, but it's something that's really complicated to do. So in this case, what I would recommend is it's crawl, walk, run, and obviously this is like the run phase. This is the holy grail that everybody wants to get to, but people shouldn't necessarily get discouraged by the fact that this is such a highly technically difficult thing to do. If you have the right people in-house, you can make it work, but I would just start by testing the smart bidding before you actually think of how can I include all these offline transactions. Because if the system has your online conversions, testing it out with just online conversions is still a lot better than not testing it at all.
Yeah, so I know maybe it may be difficult, but when the transaction goes offline and you record a result, right? And the conversion happens actually offline, how do you get that information back into analytics, which then feeds AdWords, right? So a phone call that actually made a sale by a sale agent, right? How do we get that sale information back?
Well, as a first start, what I would recommend is that you focus on people who fill out the lead before they, I understand that what you eventually want to measure are those phone calls. Yeah. But if people don't fill out the lead and they just make the call, then what I would use is call tracking or forwarding numbers. Oh, yeah. We do have another solution for that, but I would focus first on everything that you can measure online using our tools, and that includes calls, but actually connecting it to your CRM, that's something that's more complicated.
So I think there was a question from the audience online. So what is the question? Patrick is still in our room here facilitating everything. He's becoming a master video producer now. Go ahead, Patrick.
So we have a question here. We need AI ML tech to filter hot leads from total leads. So as brokers, we do not waste time, resources, money on leads that are false. What do you say to them?
Yeah, I would say that the more data that you can send back to the machine learning, and if you can tell the machine that these conversions are hot leads, then that's going to give the machine a chance to learn what is a hot lead for you. So, so absolutely, the more data you can feed back to the machine, the better really to help to make this work for you.
So in your case, that hot lead is the conversion, right? That could be the conversion where you feed back into the machine learning algorithm, and it'll go out to the internet and hunt for more of those hot leads.
That's why you need somehow a learning period. You need to have some kind of flexibility. It can take a couple of days, even a couple of weeks before the system will learn off of that data. That's why it's important that when you start testing these things, that you give yourself a couple of days or learning period.
Was there another question, Patrick? Oh,
okay. So the next phase, after we figured out this technical solution to bringing your offline data into the online world, was to feed the machine. As we were saying, the more data, the more quality data you can feed the machine, the better it can optimize your performance. So in our case, we now added to this mix offline conversions to tell the machine that these were the really, really valuable customers that we would be willing to pay more for. So it could understand what were the commonalities and real-time bid to get more of these customers. So really the more quality that data is that you can send back, going back to the previous question that was asked, the better your performance is going to be. So just want to recap here our winning formula. So again, it's tracking and measure everything as far down as your funnel as you can, leveraging machine learning where you can, and then ultimately you'll be able to improve your business results, and fairly quickly as well. So I'm really excited to share with you the business results that we saw, which included tripling our margins. So first, we rolled out machine learning capabilities across our account. And now you'll see in this chart the very gradual process by which we rolled it out. So as I mentioned, we have over 40,000 keywords, so it's no small feat to roll this out, and it's not something you want to do overnight. It's something you want to test and iterate and grow throughout your account. So back in April 2016, we were at about 10% of our account, testing small sections of it with automated bidding. And now in April 2018, we were at 97% of our account. So we've really rolled this out and fully embraced automated bidding and seen the rewards from that.
I would imagine all throughout that time, Google made a lot of enhancements,
yes,
on the AdWords platform as well that also helped us. And we've been, you guys have been great partners with us, and we love experimenting with all of this. And it's been a lot of fun for the team as well. So
that's why it's usually when you test automating, it's one campaign at a time because you want to see how it's going to work for you. We usually don't recommend to switch over a whole account. We really want people to test one step at a time. That's why, for me, it makes a lot of sense when you look at this line that it gradually goes up because it's not instant. And even if a client has tested it, maybe it didn't work that well a year ago, but to Andrew's point, there's been a lot of advancements. These are, I would say, at Google right now, there's a lot of resources that go into improving the algorithm. So in that sense, I would say it's always worth to retest something. As you can see, in the case of Kanetix, 97% is now enabled, and that's enabled because they've seen success with it. So it's just testing it one step at a time and gradually switching over the account whenever it makes sense for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
We got another question out there in cyberspace. Patrick?
Yeah, this is from Keith, and it goes to where I sort of sit sometimes. To put this all into context, what would a campaign budget be or a range?
There's no magic number for that. It depends on, before you can answer that, I would say we would need to know what are you trying to achieve here? What are your targets? How big is your business? What are your budgets? Are you trying to get 100 leads a day? Are you trying to get 1,000 leads a day? And then we could calculate back, what we think would be a reasonable amount for that. But we work with the tiniest advertisers who spend $10 a month to large advertisers. So it depends on what your business objectives are. And then obviously it depends also, as mentioned earlier, there's an auction happening. So we can't tell you, for your business, this is how much it's going to cost. So there's also some learning there. So there's no, flat fee or anything like that.
And for the and for those who need additional information or even help with your own search engine campaigns, we're here to help at Kanetix. We have a whole team. We call it Kanetix Digital. That is fully knowledgeable on this platform in partnership with Google as well. We could help you in the insurance industry with these kind of problems. One more question?
For the demographic signal, does all of this come from Google, or does Kanetix provide any of it? If so, how?
Well, what we're doing is as people with different profiles quote, and convert through our site, that information is being funneled back into the system and then matched up with Google signals. So it's able to kind of get our data and learn from its own signals to optimize the account.
Yeah, and that one is, and that's a great question. So the demographic that works, on one of our sites may not be the same as your site. You really need to train, your own site with your own audience and demographic in order to be effective. We can't provide it; it won't work, right?
So as we rolled out machine learning, we at the end of this this kind of case study, we saw some really fantastic financial results, which I'd love to share with you. So we increased our conversions, and these are offline transactions, by 26%. We also saw our revenue increase by 20%. We saw our cost per acquisition, so the amount we spent to acquire each one of these customers go down by 20%, and ultimately led to tripling our margins, which was hugely successful. And Since then, we've actually rolled this strategy out across multiple product lines, multiple brands that we manage, and we've also helped partners with this as well. So we're really, really proud of this case study results and really excited about the prospects for continuing our work in improving our tracking and continuing to utilize the machine learning tool to its fullest. So ultimately, in this case study, we went from this situation where we're seeing our margins squeezed to this situation where we're expanding our margins and we're continuing to invest in this area for marketing.
That's great. Thank you very much, Lainey and Marieke. We do have a couple minutes left for questions. And Patrick, you have another question from cyberspace out there?
So for brokers focusing on their digital strategy models, does it make sense to compete with Kanetix to be on top of the page of Google, et cetera, with all these AI tech, or would it be more feasible to purchase leads directly from Kanetix as you already are the forefront leader for this space?
That's a great question. Well, I'm going to thank you first for the complimentary kind words on that. But you know what? My answer for the industry has always been both. In fact, I think there's a really good opportunity for brokers and other insurance providers to create great experiences for their own brand, for their own sites as well. So I'll give you an example, and you can debate this with me if you want. Some of our things that we put out on the internet is about saving X dollars on your insurance, etc. But it is the insurance providers and the brokers who actually has the service and the advice and the expertise to deliver on that. So we're only talking, when we talk on the internet, it's about a certain aspect of the insurance. But I think there's a huge opportunity to do both. Like, so when you buy our leads, you're going to find, you can tend to find more, shoppers, etc. But it is your chance to, augment those leads with your leads from your own site, your own brand. You can talk about, what great advice you give and the service that you're going to give to a policyholder once they bind, etc. So I think it's important to have, multiple tactics around insurance. That's why we have, the websites like Kanetix and Insurance Hotline, etc. But we also have a Kanetix digital team to help insurance providers grow their digital footprint and get leads off their own site.
Ultimately, customers are looking for choice when they're searching online, and especially when it comes to auto insurance, they want to see what's out there, and there's different brands with different things to offer. So certainly we agree with Andrew that both is a great strategy.
So we're down to 4 minutes, and we have one more that's here from somebody by the name of Doug. If this were used by a broker or insurer, adding renewal success for the same piece of business after the next and successive renewals would add to the value. Yes?
Can you repeat that question one more time?
I'll try.
Yeah.
If this were used by a broker or insurer, adding renewal success for the same piece of business after the next and successive renewals would add to the value. Yes or no?
So that's again adding, you're counting your renewals as a conversion point, and so adding that would definitely make the machine go out and find higher quality customers for you. So if you're talking about adding the customers that came in and they were renewing, and you want to find more of those, that can definitely be part of the data. That might be a little bit more complicated because the data would have aged. Right, you have to find some way to get back there, so we'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, so that's a concept called, we refer them as audiences. So if there's audiences that we want to go after because they have a likeness, like they're up for renewal at a certain time, then those customers, again, would be customers that you could flow back and target with your marketing efforts.
Any other questions? Oh, one more.
When will online quotes be more accurate? This will ultimately create a better consumer experience as Gen Z and next-gen consumers want to get to the bottom line without any blinders.
Without any blinders?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we always try to endeavor to deliver the most accurate quotes possible. Where possible, we connect directly to the black boxes of insurance carriers. But it is still a very much, user experience problem because it is garbage in, garbage out. So if you left out a ticket, left out an accident, and you actually had one of those, then you're not going to get an accurate quote regardless. I think one of the things that we work on is optimizing, those user experience to make sure like the questions being asked, are clear, easy to understand, more frictionless way of inputting them, more error checking and validation in order to produce that accurate quote. So we have a team that work on that all the time. And the expectation of the customer always changes quite a bit in terms of how they interpret questions and how they want to enter. In addition to the industry changing how they underwrite the business as well, we have to incorporate that into the question set. So it's a continuous optimization, but we do really work hard to have the most accurate, get the users to put in the most accurate types of input in order to produce the most accurate types of quotes. And we work with the insurance carrier partners to make sure we have a bug-free, flawless API and a link to the black box rating system, so we do get the accurate quotes. Is there any other questions?
Does Kanetix modify the UI in the entry process based on anything coming from the machine learning space?
Yeah, so if we know, this kind of goes back to audiences. So if we are bidding for an audience, it's not directly connected to machine learning, but if we are targeting an audience, so say we want to go after someone who we know is up for renewal, and that customer, comes to our site, or say we're going after a customer because we know a demographic pool in, London, Ontario is something that we want to go after. Then we can tweak the journey that customer has based on what we know about them and where they came from. So it all goes back to creating the kind of audiences that we want to go after and target, and then streamlining that experience to match that customer, because ultimately what that's going to do is improve your conversion rates and improve the return that you're getting on your ad spend. So yes, we absolutely do that. And that's something we're working on to continue to improve and do better.
And I would say these audiences are important signals for machine learning. The more data you feed, the more quality data, and in this case, if you were to feed those audiences, then you're telling something to the system so you can learn off of that. So I do think it's an important signal for our systems to do their job well.
So I don't think we have any more questions. Well, welcome to the Kanetix Studios. Thank you for joining us. Thank you very much for the experts, Lainey and Marike. Smartest people in the room for sure by a long shot. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Hopefully live stream. We want to do a lot more of this. I'm going to hand the mic back over to Patrick for some closing comments. And thank you, Patrick, for helping us put this on. And thank you very much, InsuranceCanada.ca. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew, and thanks to Marika and Lainey. Thank you very much. And a big thank you to all who joined us and attended and supplied us from questions. A few last-minute items. We will be distributing evaluation forms. We would very much like you to have candid responses to that evaluation. Shortly, we will have the videos of the webinar on several sites, including Kanetix and Insurance Canada. And if you're interested in the slide decks, please indicate this on the evaluation form as you fill out. And finally, I'd like to invite you to take a look at our next in-person technology in action series, AI, the Foundation of Next Gen Insurance, being held May 30th in Toronto. Thank you again for joining us today. All the best.